What's going on, everybody? I'm Jason. This is Stefan. Ethan's behind the camera. This is Tennessee Mountain Homestead. And today we're going to do a channel update. As some of you might be aware, we haven't done a video in a few days, and that's for several reasons. One, because it snowed out here about a week ago. We had that winter storm, and it really came in hard. We got a lot of inches of snow, and it's been freezing cold. It's been below zero out here in Middle Tennessee for almost a whole week straight now. As a matter of fact, it's currently freezing in the shop. I got the heaters running. They've only been running for a little while, but it is about 34 degrees, so it was freezing in here. And to show you that, this is my little makeshift cooler. Sometimes I keep beverages in here. I keep it outside the door, and it normally doesn't freeze, but now it's a solid block of ice. Because it's been so cold and icy outside for so long, it has caused me not to go to work for 2 days this week. That's why we were able to make these videos you guys saw recently. And also, it's been delaying UPS, the post office, and FedEx. And I don't blame them. The roads out here are literally iced over, especially going towards Shepherdsville Highway. I know you guys don't know where that is, but we live about 400 feet down from the surrounding areas. We live in a valley. And as you drive up that road, we tried it yesterday in the truck. We were driving the Silverado. We were driving up towards town. We were going to Walmart, and I got about a mile down the road, and the truck started going slower because it goes uphill gradually, and then it gets steep. Anyway, Stefan just hit the record button and turned it off in the middle of my epic speech. But anyways, we were going up that way. Long story short, the truck was going slower, the back tires were going faster, and I was barely able to turn around. No steering input. There's like an inch of ice on the road. So, with that, we haven't gotten any deliveries. The first thing we're going to talk about is the John Deere 214, the staple mud mower of the channel. So as a lot of you guys out there know, this thing does run and drive. It does a fantastic job. I love this thing, how it is, but it is still going to get some upgrades. So first of all, what I want to do to this thing is I want to do a custom front axle. Now I'm thinking about going the square tubing route with the golf cart steering knuckles. The next thing I want to do is I want to be able to control the throttle from two positions. I want to go back to having a dash throttle, and I want a foot throttle. And I do have a device that's going to make that happen. And that's coming up in a future video. Next thing on the list, I want to do some skid plates under this thing. I want to build one that's going to protect the brake disc caliper, and I also want to protect one that's going to protect the belt guide underneath in the back. Something else I want to do is I want to add a small cooling fan to the oil cooler for the motor. It's right here. As some of you recall, I moved this oil cooler from where it was mounted on the engine before to make room for that alternator. Now, the thing about that was, and Mighty Rays called me out on this, but he didn't know. He said in the comments when I did that video that it would be a lot better where it is to get it away from the heat of the engine. I read your comment and I wanted to get into it and explain this back then, but here we go. Problem with this thing is I moved that oil cooler where it is. When it was on the motor, there's actually vents in the shroud that goes around the motor that guides the air from the flywheel fan through the engine over the heads. And there's little slots in that direct the air. Some of it was peeled off and it blew out through that oil cooler. So it did have some air passing through it. Where it is now, the only way it's going to have air passing through it is if I'm going forward at enough speed to create a draft over it. So I do want to add a small cooling fan. I've got my eye on some on eBay and on Amazon. So the next thing I got to do to make this thing run better is when I built this motor up and put it in here and put the carburetor on it, I ran this PCV hose that comes out of the engine block and I plugged it into the side of the air filter right here. And that's fine, it works great. However, I've noticed that when I get up into the higher RPMs and sustain the RPMs up, I guess it has enough suction or something that it pulls oil, or there's enough blow-by, and it gets oil or oily, blow-by, emissions, and it goes back in the carburetor and it starts blowing oil smoke out of the exhaust. So I guess I could get a catch can. I don't know about all that. There's not enough room under the hood. I'm going to try to go ahead and put an inline filter in that hose at some point soon. And hopefully this will stop that oil from getting up through. And we'll see if this doesn't work, something else will. The last thing on my radar is I want to put a tachometer on this thing. I've been wanting to put one on this thing. I've actually bought 3. None of them have worked for various, varying reasons. Well, I saw that, again, Mighty Rays, he did a video where he bought a 2-inch round tachometer. It's digital from Amazon. Well, I went ahead and I bought one of those same exact units. I'm going to cut it in somewhere right here on the dashboard, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. Link in the description. So that's the immediate modifications I have in store for my tractor, and we're going to go ahead and get into what Stefan's got in store for his next.
First thing on my list to modify this tractor is tires. Here I have some 25 by 8 by 12 inch D-Stone swamp witches, and coming in the mail I have 19 inch by 7 by 8 Sun Fs. The reason why I went with some skinnier tires is that this tractor is going to be a very lightweight build, and to have a skinnier patch is going to actually give you more pressure on the ground per square inch. In addition to that, I currently don't have wheel spacers, and a 10-inch or 12-inch tire wouldn't clear the gas tank on this model of tractor. The next thing on my list is to change out this stock wheel horse front axle with a John Deere 200 series front axle. The reason why is that wheel horse axles come with 3/4 inch spindles for the tires, and John Deere 200 axles come with a 1-inch spindle, which will give you a lot more strength when you're riding trails, where an impact can easily take off that spindle, leaving you running on 3 tires. The wheel horse front axle is stock with the tires at 34 inches outside to outside. The John Deere 200 series axle is 38 inches outside to outside, so that will give me 4 inches more width on the front axle. Even though I'm using a new John Deere axle, I'm going to keep the steering system, and because of that, these stock tie rods aren't going to work. So we went on eBay and found tie rods for a Yamaha Big Bear 250 ATV. I don't know if they're gonna work, but we're gonna make them work. After we take care of the tie rods, the front axle, and the tires, I want to lock the transmission, get a larger pulley for the engine and a smaller pulley for the transmission, and get belt guides set up under this cover. Then I want to get a gas pedal mounted here and maybe a slide carburetor on this engine.
Alright guys, so that's what's going on with Stefan's tractor, and like I said, we're waiting on parts. Stefan's tractor is our first priority. We need to get that thing ready for the next group ride that's going on, if we can make it. After that, we've got this little thing. I found this up at the local scrapyard. We go there all the time. It's only a few miles from here, and they usually have some pretty cool stuff. That's where we got the dirt bike that you guys saw us do the video for Colt a few weeks back. This thing's in pretty rough shape. I saw it out there at the scrapyard, and I gave $40 for it. Well, the engine's shot, the side cover's missing, it just ain't no good. So the plans we have for this right now are, we're thinking about going with the Predator Ghost engine, the aftermarket kit for it, the high performance upgrade kit. I want to do a CVT. I want to do a bigger rear sprocket, some kind of gnarly back tire, and I want to make this thing be able to drive up the formidable mountain trail. That's going to be a wrap for today's video. We just wanted to give you guys an update as to what our future plans are for these tractors and for our projects coming up here in the future. Now hopefully in the next few days it's going to thaw out around here, and I'm really hoping that I have enough confidence now, and Stefan's arm is actually out of the cast, forgot to mention that. But now we have spotters, and hopefully I can attempt to finally drive my tractor up the mountain trail. I want to say thank you to all our subscribers, and if you would, please leave a comment. If you have any suggestions, if you see anything we don't, I'd appreciate that. And if you're new to this channel and you find any of this content informative or entertaining, or both, please feel free to give me a like, definitely subscribe, leave a comment below. Once again, I'm Jason, this is Stefan, Ethan's behind the camera, this is Tennessee Mountain Homestead, and we'll see you on the next one. There's a bird stuck in here. Hey, open the garage door and let it out. All right, it went out.